The first thing Captain Elias Mercer noticed about the throne room was the silence. It wasn't the reverent kind. It was the kind that pressed against the ears, heavy and deliberate, like the pause before a predator struck. The vast chamber was carved from obsidian veined stone, its ceiling arched high enough to swallow sound. Rows of alien nobles, tall, chitin-armored Krelithi, stood in orderly ranks, their multifaceted eyes fixed on him with cold curiosity. At the center sat Empress Jakor. She reclined upon a throne grown rather than built, its organic curves pulsing faintly with bioluminescent veins. Her mandibles flexed in what passed for a smile among her species. "So," she said through a translator node hovering near her head, "this is the human." Elias stood alone, wrists bound in a restraint field that hummed softly. He wore the battered uniform of the Terran Expeditionary Corps, still stained with dust and dried blood from the border skirmish. Despite everything, he met her gaze without flinching. "Yes," Jakor continued, rising slowly. "The species that resists assimilation. The species that refuses to kneel." She circled him, claws clicking against stone. "You are impressive animals. Violent, persistent, but all creatures can be trained." With a sharp gesture, the restraint field tightened, forcing Elias to his knees. A ripple of satisfaction moved through the court. "We will cage you," the Empress declared. "Study you, break you. And when humanity sees its champion reduced to a compliant specimen, your worlds will surrender." Elias coughed once, then laughed. The sound echoed strangely in the chamber, soft, human, utterly wrong. Jakor stopped. "You find this amusing?" "I find it familiar," Elias said. "Every empire thinks it's the first to try this." She hissed. "Defiance will cost you." "No," he replied calmly. "Arrogance will cost you." With a flick of her claw, Jakor activated the containment lattice. Energy bars erupted around him, forming a translucent cage. The nobles leaned forward, eager to watch a human finally learn his place. "Observe," the Empress said. "Even your muscles, so overdeveloped, are useless here." The lattice suppresses aggression, adrenaline, neural spike responses. "You are harmless." Elias looked at the bars, then down at his own hands. He flexed his fingers slowly. The lattice flickered. Jakor's mandibles twitched. "Impossible." Elias stood. The nobles recoiled as the cage dimmed further, struggling to maintain coherence. "You suppress aggression," Elias said. "You suppress fear responses. Pain tolerance. That's impressive." He placed one hand against the energy field. "But you didn't suppress will." With a sharp crack like thunder splitting stone, the lattice shattered. Silence returned, but this time it was shock. Before anyone could react, Elias surged forward. Not with wild fury, but precise, disciplined motion. He moved like a soldier who had trained for the worst-case scenario and found it lacking. 2 guards rushed him. He redirected one into the other, using their own mass against them. A third raised a plasma spear. Elias tore it from the alien's grip and slammed the butt into its thorax, dropping it instantly. Jakor screeched, "Kill him." But the court was already in chaos. Elias vaulted the steps to the throne in seconds. A defensive barrier snapped into place, then failed as his gauntlet interfaced with the throne's living circuitry. Jakor stumbled backward, disbelief radiating from her posture. How do you command royal biotech?" Elias straightened, standing tall above her. "Because you build it like a cage," he said. "And humans are very good at breaking out of those." He slammed his fist into the throne's control node. The chamber lights shifted from imperial violet to Terran blue. A synthesized voice boomed through the hall. Authority transferred. Every Krelithi froze. Jacques stared at the throne behind Elias, then at the symbols igniting along the walls. Ancient protocols activating, bound to conquest law older than her reign. No, she whispered. That protocol only triggers if a ruler proves unfit to command their own dominion, Elias finished. He turned and sat on the throne. The living structure reshaped itself instantly, adjusting to his human form as if it had been waiting centuries for this moment. The nobles dropped to their knees, instinct overriding pride. Krelethi law was absolute. The throne had chosen. Jacques collapsed, her power stripped in an instant. Elias looked down at her, not with hatred, but with something colder. You tried to cage a human, he said. You thought strength was about control. He stood, voice carrying across the chamber. Humanity doesn't conquer to dominate. We conquer to end threats. He raised his hand, and the palace systems obeyed. Effective immediately, Elias announced, the Krelethi Empire ceases hostile expansion. Your fleets will stand down. Your worlds will retain autonomy under Terran oversight until you learn what coexistence means. A murmur rippled through the court. Fear, awe, something dangerously close to relief. Elias descended the steps and stopped before Jacques. You're not my prisoner, he said. You're my witness. Moments later, Terran dropships roared into the skies above the capital, not firing a single shot. By the end of the day, the galaxy would learn a lesson it never seemed to remember. You could try to chain a human, but if you failed even once, you might just hand them your throne. The trial broadcast lasted less than 3 minutes. That was all it took. Across Krelethi space, billions watched as Empress Jacques knelt before a human seated on the living throne. Not executed. Not humiliated. Simply outmatched. The ancient conquest laws, once symbols of Krelethi dominance, had turned against their own creator. World after world powered down invasion fleets, governors invoking surrender clauses older than memory. Humanity did not celebrate with parades or conquest banners. Instead, Terran engineers arrived. Diplomats followed. Food shipments replaced warships. Borders stabilized. Trade lanes reopened. The empire that had ruled through fear learned, slowly and painfully, how to exist without it. Elias Mercer did not keep the throne. Once the transition was complete, he stood before the Krelethi High Court and relinquished authority back to a restructured council, one bound by new laws written jointly with humanity. When asked why he gave up absolute power so easily, his answer was simple. Because if you need a throne to rule, he said, you're already weak. Years later, among the stars, the story spread. Of the Empress who tried to cage a human. Of the throne that chose one instead. Of an empire that learned the difference between domination and strength. And whenever a young alien officer asked their commander why humans were treated with such careful respect, the answer was always the same. Because once a human was brought in chains and walked out owning the throne.